Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. Julian here for another Drops episode. And as usual, guys, we're going to go through some forwards, some defensemen, and some goalies that you should consider dropping from your team in order to win Week 9 of the fantasy hockey season. Now, before we jump into it, guys, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet already done so. And if you do want to take your support to the next level, definitely consider hitting that join button down below or in the description, joining my Patreon. Thanks so much, guys, and let's jump right into the content now, and let's take a look at some forwards that you should consider dropping from your team. All right, and the first forward on my list is Jonathan Marchessault of the Nashville Predators, and he has been pretty abysmal this season. Now, his underlying stats say that he's probably going to turn it around to a certain degree, but Nashville just hasn't been very good this year. He's kind of been being moved around the lineup a lot, and honestly, he's been really disappointing. If you're in a deep league, obviously you're not dropping Jonathan Marchessault, but judging by the fact that he is owned in 79% of leagues, he's being held in quite a bit of shallow leagues as well. If you own him in a shallow league, you can definitely consider dropping him for sure. Next guy is Nino Niederreiter of the Winnipeg Jets, 44% roster, and he is a third liner, had an amazing start to the year. I streamed him in quite a few leagues, and he was really, really great. Now, he slowed down quite a bit, and again, guys, he's a third liner with decent peripherals, so yeah, he's decent, but he's definitely not someone that needs to be owned in 44% of leagues. Quinton Byfield of the Los Angeles Kings, honestly, has been really, really disappointing this year. Even though he's still putting up points every so often, his peripherals are nowhere to be seen. He's a great real-life player, but not a great fantasy player. He can be dropped in almost every league at this point. William Karlsson of the Vegas Golden Knights, 28% rostered, has been decent this year when he's needed, but he is, again, a third liner, and if Vegas doesn't have a super favorable schedule, there's not really a reason to have William Karlsson in your lineup, especially since he's a natural center too, and there's so many good ones out there. And finally, Alexi Protas of the Washington Capitals, and he was doing great on that top line in Washington while Ovechkin was there, but Ovechkin is gone for quite a few weeks now, and even though he's still not doing that bad, his peripherals are awful. So if he doesn't get you a point, he is pretty bad to have in your lineup, so definitely he can be dropped in the majority of leagues as well. As for defensemen, Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers has been someone who's been pretty disappointing this year. Hasn't been getting that top power play time. It's gone back to Aaron Ekblad now on that top power play in Florida. So Forsling's kind of that guy who's going to get you some decent peripherals and a point every now and then, but definitely does not need to be owned in 84% of leagues. That is for sure. Same kind of thing with Ekholm. He's not a top power play guy. That goes to Bouchard in Edmonton. So Ekholm's the kind of guy who gets decent peripherals and points every 2-3 games at best. And that's kind of what you're banking on. So I don't know why Ekholm's 79% owned. Like last year, Ekholm never went over, I think, 53% rostered at any point in the season. So having him in 79% of leagues just doesn't make sense. If you are in a shallower league and you want to stream someone or add someone who has a little bit more upside, absolutely go for it. Noah Hannafin's the kind of guy who's been a little bit up and down this season. He's gone on a few game point streaks and then has gone completely missing for games at a time after that. His peripherals have not been that great, and the point output has not been that great, especially if you're in a shallow league. You can consider dropping him. Even in deeper ones, he is starting to become closer to a drop. Obviously, in super deep leagues, you're hanging on to him because he's still got a decent amount of upside. But yeah, he's definitely not been the greatest fantasy player this season, especially since he's not getting that PP1 time. Devon Taves of the Colorado Avalanche has been really, really disappointing this year. His peripherals have just kind of disappeared. And even with the whole Colorado team healthy now, I thought maybe his production would uptake a little bit more points, maybe some more peripherals, but no, we haven't been seeing any of that. Devon Taves is a drop in most leagues here. And Owen Power of the Buffalo Sabres has been pretty decent this year, honestly, but the points and the peripherals have started to fade at this point, so he can be dropped in most leagues as well. As for goalies, Semyon Varlamov has pretty much been on my list every single week where I include goalies. He's someone who only gets every third game or so for New York, and honestly hasn't even been that great. Holding him to play 1 out of every 3 games, it's not a great goalie strategy. Jonathan Quick, he's also only getting 1 out of every 3 or 4 games in New York. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to hold on to Jonathan Quick. Yeah, he's been pretty good when called upon, but holding a goalie to play maybe 1 game per week for you doesn't seem like a great strategy for winning to me. Justus Anunin was just traded to the Nashville Predators, so even though he did get some decent opportunities to be a starter in Colorado this year, Now that he's in Nashville, he is the absolute backup to UC Saros, so he can absolutely be dropped in all leagues. Can only be streamed when Nashville has a back-to-back set. That's pretty much all the games he's going to get this year. Yaroslav Askarov of the San Jose Sharks did actually get the chance to play a couple of games when Vanecek was injured. But now that Vanecek is healthy, they went ahead and sent Askarov right back down to the minors. So I don't think they're in any rush to play this guy a lot this year. So if you're an owner of Askarov and it's not a Dynasty League and you don't have an NA spot, absolutely drop Askarov. He's taking up a spot on your roster for no reason. And finally, Alex Lyon of the Detroit Red Wings. He is injured right now, but Talbot is the starter over there. And unless Lyon strings together quite a few really, really good starts, Lyon is pretty droppable. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed the content today, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.